before we start our meeting, I would like to have a roll call, if we may, and I'll ask our secretary to call the roll at this time.
Okay, we ready? District 1, Ann Purcell.
Present.
District 2, Mr. Floyd.
Here.
District 3, Mr. Carricker. District 4, Mr. Brown.
Present.
District 5, Ms. Key.
Present.
District 6, Mr. Abel.
I'm here.
District 7, Mr. Bowen.
Here.
District 8, Mr. Golden.
Here.
District 9, Ms. Dunn. District 10, Mr. Boswell.
Here.
District 11, Mr. Lewis.
Here.
District 13, Ms. Lemon.
Here.
And District 14, Mr. Sharon.
Here.
Thank you. At this time now, I'll have the invocation and we'll start our meeting. Our Heavenly Father, we come before you today asking you for guidance as we make decisions regarding the state's transportation business. Please be with each one of us in this organization. Give us the courage to seek your will in everything that we do. I ask a special prayer for those and their loved ones who have been affected by COVID. And Lord, we ask that you be with our national and state leaders as we try to combat this horrible virus. Give us the faith to pursue you no matter the circumstances. We love you and we are so thankful for your son, Jesus. It is in his name that we pray. Amen. At this time, we will have our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag.
The flag of the United States of America.
Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. As I said before, we're kind of having to do things a little bit differently right now, but hopefully we'll be together here very shortly on our next meeting or soon thereafter, and hopefully that's going to be a reality for us. At this time, I also like to mention the new District 3 board member. We'd like to congratulate Mr. Russ Carricker. Mr. Carricker lives in Columbus, Georgia, as we know, and represents the 3rd Congressional District. We understand that Mr. Carricker could not participate in today's meeting, but we're looking forward to working with him. And I understand he's out of town today, and I talked with him yesterday, and he's looking forward to working with us on this board. Thank you. At this time now, I'm going to ask that approval of the January minutes from the January board meeting, and now I would like to ask for a motion for approval.
So moved.
Do I have a, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second. Second.
We have a second. Is there any questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, ayes have it. At this time, I would like to report on the projects in the letting of the March letting. And Mr. Shelby, will you come forward and give us this information, please?
Well, good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, and members of the board. I am here to present the projects the department is proposing to advertise for the March 2021 letting. Before we present March, here are the FY 2021 results. We have let a total of 233 projects in FY 2021. This chart shows the number of projects by improvement type. The value of these 223 projects is approximately $723 million through the January 2021 bid awards, with 209 GDOT let projects worth approximately $696 million, and 14 local let projects worth $28 million. This chart shows the dollar amount distribution by improvement type, with maintenance, bridge, and road projects making up the bulk of these types. Here are the results of the January 2021 letting. Of the 43 GDOT let contracts presented to the board, 41 were awarded and 2 were withdrawn. Now I'm going to discuss the projects in the March 2021 letting. We have a total of 19 projects with 17 GDOT and 2 local lets. The next 2 slides list the 19 non-TIA projects arranged by congressional district. As you can see with this slide, we are letting a variety of projects throughout the state to address bridge, capacity, enhancement, maintenance, and safety issues. The first highlighted project will resurface State Route 30 from Popular Street to I-16 for a distance of 11.27 miles. This section was last repaved in 2005, 16 years ago, and is an excellent example of our continued commitment to maintaining our existing infrastructure. This next project will resurface State Route 247 from north of State Route 49 to south of State Route 19 for a distance of 5.32 miles. This section was last repaved in 2005, 16 years ago. This project will replace the existing signal-controlled intersection at State Route 155 and Panola Road at the DeKalb-Henry County line with a multi-lane roundabout. This project will reduce crash frequency and severity while improving the operational efficiency at the intersection. This project is the replacement of the structurally deficient bridge on State Route 59 over Middle Fork Broad River. The existing bridge was constructed in 1947, 74 years ago. And here's a ground view of that bridge to be replaced. The next project is the pavement rehabilitation of portions of I-16 from State Route 29 to State Route 56 in Truitland County for a distance of 9.7 miles. It will include patching, resealing all the concrete joints, and slab replacement where necessary. This section was actually constructed in 1975, 46 years ago, and has had various maintenance efforts ever since. It's another good example of our continuing effort to maintain our existing infrastructure. The final highlighted project is the replacement of the structurally deficient bridge on Hog Jowl Road over Shaw Branch in Walker County. The existing bridge was constructed in 1948, 73 years ago. And here's a ground view of that bridge to be replaced. The following design-build projects will be advertised in March 2021. The actual let dates are not until September, but we are advertising these early to receive an abundance of quality bids. Here are the 2 projects listed on the screen. Here's a map showing the locations of these 2 design-build bridge projects. The first project is the replacement of the structurally deficient bridge on State Route 25 over the Savannah River. The existing bridge was constructed in 1954, 67 years ago. The second of these bridges is replacement on State Route 25 over Middle River. The existing bridge was constructed in 1953, 68 years ago. So we have 19 projects proposed for the March 2021 letting. This chart shows the dollar amount distribution by improvement type, The estimate of the projects in the March 2021 letting is approximately $99 million. This chart shows the dollar amount distribution by improvement type. I now ask for your consideration for approval of the proposed projects presented for the March 2021 letting.
Is there any questions from Mr. Shelby's, March letting report? If not, we will ask for a motion on the approval of the March letting. Do we have a
So
motion?
moved.
Have a second?
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions? If not, whatever, signify by saying aye for approval.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Shelby, for that report. Mr. Commissioner, would you come forward now? We'll have our commissioner's report. Ms. Dunn, are you on? Can you hear us? Okay, thank you. You hear us, I understand. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board. It's a pleasure
Morning.
to be with you this morning. I'll start with our state fund collections. For the month of January, fund collections totaled $169.9 million, $158 million in excise, $11.78 million in transportation fees. The excise increase from January 2020 as compared to a year ago, excise is actually up 1.3% as, again, January of 21 compared to January 20. The transportation fees, especially for hotel fees, are actually down about 28% as compared to a year ago, obviously pre-pandemic. So the excise is very encouraging, which indicates a high level of travel as we are seeing, as the data tells us. That brings our fiscal year-to-date total to $1.167 billion. The breakdown on that is $1.08 billion in excise and $83.5 million in transportation fees. So if you compared year-to-date from this year compared to last year, we're down about $25 million. So again, think about year-to-date as this was pre-pandemic compared to a year ago, so $25 million down post-pandemic. We have done an analysis of fiscal year 2021 and what's projected into 22, and it does appear that the impact to state funds due to COVID is somewhere around $317 million less in transportation revenue. So that's something that we certainly continue to track as we go forward. But just as a reminder, the COVID relief funds or the coronavirus relief funds to Georgia, you'll hear about later today, totaled about $277 million. So that's certainly helpful to try to fill that $317 million gap that we have forecast at this point. Now let me move away from state fund collections into our employment figure for January, ending at the end of January. We had 3,627 full-time employees. We had 58 maintenance temporary staff. We hired 18 employees, promoted 36 employees, and had 56 separations from employment. Also, as far as our professional services procurement update, in January we had 90 contracts valued at $17.9 million for engineering, design, right-of-way, or geotechnical. That brings our fiscal year to date up to 943 contracts executed at $376.1 million. And I might add, I want to highlight the great work that our procurement team has done. Year to date, compared to a year ago, we had only done 862 contracts, and this year to date, 943 in a COVID world. So they're continuing to work very efficiently and effectively despite COVID and teleworking, and the procurement team, as well as all our subject matter experts, continue to drive forward in a very efficient and effective way. So very excited to see those numbers. Now let me highlight a few projects that opened to traffic since we were together last. And I'm going to start down in Congressional District 1 in Bryan County, which is our GDOT District 5. This project was the construction of a new interchange at I-95 and Belfast-Keller Road, which is in southern Bryan County. This project included the construction of a new overpass bridge and roundabouts at each of the ramps, which is very unique. The contractor is Reeves Construction Company. It opened to traffic on January 22nd. It represents a total investment of $19.5 million, of which the GDOT investment was $12.5. So Bryan County helped advance this project through a partnership by providing $7 million in local funds to advance it, and also were able to achieve right-of-way donations for this big project. It's very rare that you get a new interchange on an interstate, and certainly we appreciate our partners at Federal Highway for being able to work through the interstate justification requirement for that. You can see here, there's an aerial shot of the interchange. This is the third interchange in Georgia designed with roundabouts at the ramp terminals, which obviously help safety and operations to move traffic a lot more efficiently and safely through the interchange. This new interchange certainly will ease congestion along State Route 144 in Richmond Hill. It provides decreased travel time to traverse the county. The county really had sort of a hard time going north-south, so this provides a great opportunity for that. And as you see on the top right corner there was a virtual ribbon cutting. It's amazing how that ribbon stretched virtually across all those locations. But certainly appreciate our communications team for pulling together the ability to do a virtual ribbon cutting. You can see Ann Purcell right there in the middle, Representative Ryan Stevens, our Bryan County representatives, and Rob McCall with some other guy there in the middle. So certainly we're glad to see that. And just yesterday, Governor Kemp was there for a roundtable ribbon cutting in a socially distanced way. You can see on the bottom right corner, and you can see Ann Purcell there, and I believe that's Representative Stevens to the left. So very glad to have them. They had that at the Bryan County Administration Building yesterday, and great to have the governor there to highlight this great project that obviously promotes so many things, hurricane evacuation capabilities, economic development, safety operations. It just checks all the boxes for us that really makes a big difference in transportation. So I'm going to highlight next the virtual ribbon cutting, so pay attention.
For Georgia DOT, Bryan County, and all the partners, along with Richmond Hill, the opening of the I-95, Belfast-Keller interchange will be a great improvement to the area, provide increased connectivity, and assist us with hurricane evacuations and improve this lower end of the county.
Working with the city of Richmond Hill, the GDOT, Ray in here, it's a collaborative effort between all of us that we are working together to better this for all the citizens of Bryan County and Richmond Hill.
This project certainly does many things, including improve mobility through and around Bryan County. Also improves safety and operations by utilization of roundabouts at the ramps. This, in fact, is our third interchange with roundabouts. And also provides a safety benefit for hurricane evacuation opportunities.
We have another evacuation route to get out of the county instead of going through the city of Richmond Hill, where sometimes that can be a lot of traffic. Now we have an option to leave on this end of the county. And for our safety, that's going to be great for our citizens.
Transportation is a key to what we do in the state of Georgia. Here in Bryan County, it is very important because as we look, not only are we concerned with our citizens, as we are everywhere, but also with tourists, as well as that's a fact with our businesses.
But the biggest thing is all the growth that's going to happen on the industrial side. And then on the commercial side, there's so much that can happen. It's going to be a place that people want to live, work, and play. And to see this finally a reality is going to pay dividends way down the road.
As a state, the first district, you can be assured that the coastline and the Georgia-Florida line is very important to us with infrastructure, with transportation that we need to get to our Georgia ports.
And it's not just growth for the port. This is going to be growth of jobs in your community, investment that continues to help build the tax base that will provide the citizens of Bryan County and really this whole area with good economic opportunities in the future.
So really excited that this interchange will be known as the Jimmy Burnstead Interchange in recognition of former Bryan County Commission Chair Jimmy Burnstead. Certainly a longtime advocate for this project. I can tell you, I've heard from him and I know how important this was to him. And I'm glad that this interchange is now open. It certainly will improve mobility, safety, and operations, and promote economic growth in Bryan County.
And we're so proud to be a part of what is going on in our state and with needs of improvement in the positive way for transportation.
The team that we have at DOT, the great leadership we have on the Board of Transportation, I mean, all of those things are paying off now more than ever, especially when you compare other states that shut down and we're opening up, we're opening interchanges, just these stories that are coming out of Georgia makes people want to look and come here to grow, and that's what we want.
All right, again, thanks to our communications team. That was just yesterday, so putting that together really does a great job to highlight the great outcome from yesterday.
That's a very impressive roundabout interchange. And is that the first one in our state that we built?
That is not the first one, but it's one of three. I believe it's the second one that's open to traffic.
Okay.
So, all right, let me move forward into Congressional District 3 in Harris County. Not quite as exciting as a new interchange, but just equally as important was a bridge replacement on Mount Airy Road over Osahatchee Creek. The contractor was McCoy Grading Incorporated. The bridge was built in 1969 originally. We opened it for traffic on January 23rd. It represents a $2.2 million state-funded bridge replacement program, again, on a local road. So very important to highlight that. And you can see what the replaced bridge looks like in this slide. We'll move into Congressional District 9 up in Banks and Franklin counties, GDOT District 1, where we had 18 miles of Interstate 85 resurfaced, including shoulder rehabilitation, beginning north of State Route 63, going all the way up to just south of State Route 17. C.W. Matthews Contracting Company was the contractor. The last time this was resurfaced was 1998. So again, getting our, as Albert mentioned earlier, getting our pavements back in the state of good repair and getting them back on more of a sustainable resurfacing cycle. They finished up at January 23rd, just ahead of the January 31st completion date. It represents a $19.2 million investment along that corridor. So just a little bit of relation, 18 miles at $19 million. So that's easy math. Moving into Congressional District 14 up in Gordon County, another great project here. It really helps mobility and gives options and also opportunities for economic development was the South Calhoun Bypass, which is 6.2 miles of constructions to basically realign US 41, which also carries State Route 3 and State Route 53, from 53 up to 53 again, as you can see the arching nature of the South Calhoun Bypass there. This project also included three new bridges along the way. The contractor was Wright Brothers Construction Company. It opened to traffic right at the beginning of the year. It represents a $64.2 million investment for that 6.24 miles. Again, that's a little bit of easy math. You can see the cost per mile. So this project was ahead of schedule as well. So glad to have that one underway. Now let me move away from projects and move into some recent awards and honors received by the department. We'll start with the People's Choice Award. We've talked about that a couple of times now, but we physically have it here today. And as you can see on the screen, so we finally did get the trophy, if you will. So that's sort of the final achievement. And this was for the Riverwalk Parkway in Columbus. And you remember, Rick Jones came up and received the check just a month or so ago. So glad to finally get the trophy to put in the trophy case. Some more good news I always like to highlight is, again, especially our support of our local governments, especially in rural Georgia across the state. And we received a wonderful letter from the chairman of the Cook County Board of Commissioners, and it was a letter of gratitude for our contribution to replace 2 bridges in Cook County, located on Fellowship Road over Hutchinson Mill Creek and Old Union Road over Morrison Creek. Here's a letter shown on the screen. These replacements were made possible through GDOT's Design Build program. Combined, the 2 bridges total an investment of about $3 million. The Fellowship Road Bridge over Hutchinson Mill Creek was built in 1964, so we replaced it at $1.8 million. The Old Union Road Bridge was originally built in 1969, and this replacement cost was $1.7 million. This, again, is just another example of how we help the local governments replace bridges where they don't have the capacity, budget, or capability to do so, which is vital, again, for agribusiness and mobility of commodities such as freight and agribusiness products across all of Georgia. And there's a picture of the bridges, a before and after, and another before and after. Let me move in now to just an update on winter weather efforts, and my notes keep changing by the minute because the weather keeps changing by the minute, it seems to be. Just a few weeks ago, it was Super Bowl weekend, and you can just about set your clock in Georgia for Super Bowl weekend. There's probably going to be inclement weather, and we had that threat again that threatened us with snow and ice, and especially ice. Again, District 1 crews treated roads with salt and brine in Dawson, Habersham, Lumpkin, Rabun towns, Union, and White counties. The District 6 crews worked the roads also with salt and brine in Fannin, Gilmer, and Murray counties. Crews even treated mountainous areas, of course. It seems like our higher elevations have been most likely hit and recently impacted on Lookout Mountain, Sand Mountain, and Burnt Mountain as well. And just a few days ago, if you remember back to the first of the week, we were dealing with black ice, and certainly the weather across the west, every state west of here, and you look at Texas and Arkansas and Mississippi, and everybody has been impacted. We had certainly a real threat, but thanks to the crews, the men and women of GDOT for being out. District 1, 3, 6, and 7 all did treatment and were on standby overnight just in case to respond. And then just even yesterday with the threat of the potential freezing precipitation and black ice again, yesterday District 1 and District 6 worked through the evening and then had crews on standby through the night last night into this morning based on the forecast. And we're also stood up and ready to respond as this rain moves through, and if it does not dry into the morning, of which freezing temperatures, especially in Districts 1 and 6, are still forecast. So we'll keep an eye on that. I have to tell you, as proud as I am of our men and women, especially District 1 and 6, who has been hit extremely hard, they are growing weary because this seems like a every other day weather situation. So this weather pattern, we hope, changes. Just to give you some context of the amount of work they've done, just in January, they've treated over 5,601 miles of road. Think about that. There's over 5,601 miles of road has been treated. They've applied 250,000 gallons of brine. Think about that, 250,000 gallons of brine and over 5,400 tons of salt and gravel mix. So these weather patterns have been very tricky because when you get a lot of rain, brine is only, it works very well as a pre-treatment, but if you get a lot of rain, then you have to go to just applying the salt and gravel mix in advance. Our folks have done a really good job of being strategic on what treatment they apply and being proactive. And I think that's the most important part, is being proactive. And of course, messaging is key too. So again, to our district communication staff, our communication staff here, getting the word out to the citizens about being safe and the threat of black ice and the like is very critical. So let me move away from that and talk about messaging. And this is the use of technology to improve safety and mobility. And here's a great partnership we have with GEMA Homeland Security where we've developed a procedure to use the Georgia Alerts Emergency Notification Platform, which is part of FEMA's Integrated Public Alert Warning System. Think of these as Amber Alerts, is how you get an Amber Alert. It's the same technology. And so what this system allows us to do is notify the traveling public of incidents or accidents or where the roadway or a traveling public are being impacted due to something such as a crash. We're able to work with GEMA to basically geofence, basically put a boundary around the roads we'd like to push a notification to everybody's cell phone on that's in that area and be able to do so. So this activation, again, gives motorists a heads up or even an alternate route they may take if the interstate's blocked with an issue. Now, this also will provide an opportunity in other weather events such as hurricane evacuations and the like. So very excited about this partnership. Unfortunately, and fortunately, I guess, we were able to test it out and it worked very well. Just last week when I-75 northbound here in just northwest of Atlanta, where there was a 16 vehicle crash and unfortunately resulted in a fatality and several car fires. It just was a tangled mess. Unfortunately, I-75 was shut down about 6 hours, but we were able to use this, and you can actually see the alert on the screen there for anybody that was on that I-75 corridor or in that vicinity, to give them alternate routes or to let them know that there was a problem on the roadway. I just want to thanks our team, Mark Plotkin and Larry Barnes, Lamar McEwen, and Edwin Whitworth and others for coordination and working with GEMA to make this work. It's truly a partnership with them, and we look forward, again, this technology to help inform the public, to make good decisions, and hopefully people won't be stuck sometimes in these tragic crashes. Now let me move along with some other technology advances to help us work smarter, not harder. And this is what we call our video log. This is from the Office of Transportation Data. Has developed this application that brings the road to our screen. As you see there, you're driving down the road and you get a full 180 view of the roadway. It gives you the ability to use this high-resolution imagery to access pavement condition data by route, mile point, and direction. If you look over on the right, you're actually seeing pavement condition, and what that turns into for us is data that helps us rate and evaluate our pavement conditions. So far, over 35,000 miles of new imagery has been collected back in the spring and the summer. The innovation team and the Office of Transportation Data saw this opportunity to use this data to create a tool that helps the engineers basically see a sign, a bridge, or intersection out in the field without physically having to go there, and they get data of exactly where that is. So very, very useful tool, especially in COVID where we're not out and about as much. We can pull this up. Everybody's familiar with Google Earth and Street View, but this is even better than that. This gives us a lot more data. So I encourage our staff to go online. It's actually an internal use application for us. But again, it's a great tool that's used often. Now, moving away from high tech back to truly tried and true is the notification of our new 2021-22 state map. And this works when the power goes out, so you can still use the map. And proud of the map. If you need maps, please let Kristen know. They're being produced. The map is always done in partnership and collaboration with Carl Vinson Institute of Government at UGA and our Office of Transportation Data. We refresh the map every 2 years, and this special edition includes some hidden objects and native animals to test your observation skills. So when you see it, it's got some nice features to it. you see around the border as shown on the screen there. So finally, let me talk about another publication that I'm very proud of, and that's our Accountability and Investment Report. It's now available. This is the report that looks back at fiscal year 20, and it's very important that we take a transparent look and share that information with the public about our funding, our performance measures, our operations. We highlight some projects as well as our initiatives for 2020. You'll notice something new with this Accountability and Investment Report. We made it even more interactive by use of the QR code. If you look on the screen, the cover has a QR code on it. And throughout the magazine, there's QR codes that you can click on that takes you to other information. In your board mail-out was a palm card flyer that has the QR code on it to get to the Accountability and Investment Report. When you pull that up, it's in the format that you just turn the pages, just like you would physically with a paper copy. Now, we will have some paper copies printed. Obviously, we're trying to save cost and be environmentally sustainable. But we will have some paper copies available for your use. This is a very well done document. It really tells the story of GDOT for fiscal year 20, provides lots of information in it. So, Mr. Chairman, that's a lengthy report. I'll be glad to entertain any questions or comments from the board.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there any questions from the Commission on the Commissioner report?
Yeah, this is Kevin. Commissioner, the very start of your report, you talked about budget shortfall. I missed a couple of things. If Angela's going to cover this stuff, then let's wait till then. But I think you said something about a $300 million shortfall. Was that for 2020 calendar year or for fiscal year?
Thank you, Mr. Abel. So that is a forecast of us looking back at fiscal year 20, fiscal year 21, and then looking at what's projected into 22. That was our analysis of basically trying to determine what the revenue shortfall may be, which totaled about $317 million is what we've forecast. Now, that has not been realized because we're in the middle of fiscal year 21, but where we were thinking we were going to be based on trajectory, that's the number we think we were at. And then further was the Corona relief funds from December that came to Georgia DOT total about $277 million. So, you know, that is very helpful to try to fill that hole that has been lost on the state revenue side.
Okay.
Federal revenue has not declined because Congress authorized the full amount and appropriated the full amount. So we have not seen a loss on the federal side. But Angela will talk a little bit more in detail about budget specifically.
Okay, because my observation of actuals when you do a fiscal 21 collections to date versus fiscal 20 is a 25 million shortfall. So to get to 300 plus million shortfall over that 3-year period, you're suggesting there's considerable additional shortfalls outside of this period from last July through January?
Fiscal year 20 budget had an impact due to COVID as well. So when you compare one budget year to another, you're not comparing back to the base prior to COVID impacts. So your math is correct, but there's a little different comparator. We're trying to compare back to as COVID never happened. There certainly was an effect in fiscal year 20 with a reduced budget to the state at the state level due to COVID.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner.
At this time, I would like to welcome our State Transportation Committee Chairman, Mr. Frank Ginn, and also from the representative, Mr. Rick Jaspers, to our board meeting today. And we're so excited about having this opportunity to not only to meet you, but where you can meet our board members, or any of our board members have any questions or like to discuss anything with our chairmans. We're so happy that you're here today, and we look forward to interacting with you here today at our board meeting, and it's, of course, virtual, but it's been a great day to have you on our board.
Good morning, Chairman Bowen. Said they appreciate you having us tune in for a few minutes. They want to thank you and the board for the great leadership and commend Commissioner McMurray for moving our state forward. Y'all do a fantastic job.
And I just want to jump in there, Mr. Chairman. Senator Ginn and I are excited to be transportation chairmen. It's a great, in the last 2-3 weeks, I learned so much about what you do and what everyone does in this business, and it's just going to be exciting to work with you folks that are doing such great things for Georgia, and we look forward to it.
Well, I think you'll find that we welcome our chairman's, our Senate chairmanship and our representative chairmanship in interacting with us, because we have a great board. Our board, does a great, fantastic job in the leadership of transportation, and our commissioner, who does a fantastic job, and all of our employees over here. They're really focused on the importance of transportation, and it's just such a great opportunity and to work and to partner with our legislatures, because I feel like we're the only board that the legislature I feel like we have to report to, but we really enjoy your interaction and importance of your leadership and how you would how we can support your agendas as it relates to transportation. And as we know, that transportation is so important in our economic development throughout this state, and we are so focused, and that's the good news. And our people here and our commissioners' leadership and our senior staff are very, very focused in the future of transportation for Georgia. And I think we are so excited what's going on now and the future of the transportation opportunities. And I think we are way ahead in our transportation in comparison to other states and what have you. And y'all, and the legislature is so supportive too. That partnership is so important. And we're so excited that you want to come and to interact with us today and see what goes on.
Chairman Bowen, I found out one little trivial detail sitting here with Rick this morning.
Now we know we can park there, come around.
That you ought to feel some sympathy towards is board member Emily Dunn. She has both of us living in her district, so we're really proud that we got
That's great. She does a great job, though. She's very very knowledgeable about transportation, and of course, she's going to be our next chairman, and she does a fantastic job.
For me, the other one you ought to really feel sorry for is Jamie Boswell, because he's not that far out of reach for me, and I've known Jamie for a long time. So one of the things I wanted to do today, Chairman, if it's okay, if y'all have a pen and you want to write down this secret code, I want to give each one of y'all my cell phone number and whoever else is out there listening, because it ain't a secret. It's 706-680-4466. And I tell people, I said that the worst thing you can be as an elected official is useless. And the fastest way to be useless is when you need me, you can't get me, I become useless. So it's great to be with you, Chairman, and all the board members, and Russell and everybody else. I'm going to let my esteemed colleague in the House end us up.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Jerry, Sharon, my board member in the 14th. My county's one of those like Frank's is split. And we just appreciate working with you guys. Look forward to it. Did a great freight and logistics study in the last 2 years. You'll see action on our side, on both sides of that very quickly. And because we want to make sure that we work with you in partnership to keep Georgia growing and create jobs. And we're excited to be there to do that.
Well, we're certainly excited to have you with us today, and this interaction that we're having. And so, was any board members would like to speak to either Mr. Jaspers or Mr. Ginn?
Mr. Chairman, this is Jamie Boswell, and I will say this, believe it or not, Mr. Ginn will answer his phone because I've called him many times. So if you need to get in touch with him, you can get him.
Ms.
we
Dunn,
want
are
to
you
give a
on?
Shout out, Mr. Chairman, to our fine guy here, Mr. Brown, that set this up for Senator Gideon and I. We sure appreciate you, Mr. Brown.
We're not technology literate, but Jamie, I appreciate it.
He is.
I do know how to answer the phone, so if nothing else.
Commissioner, would you like to say anything, or?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Get started, Mr. Chairman. He had to put up with me as a district engineer way back when, and all kind of different roles he's held over DOT in the last 30 years. So, Russell said they just be quiet on a lot of those things.
You can tell us some stories.
Yeah, we won't tell too much, but it's quite an honor. One, I want to thank you both for joining the board meeting today. This is pretty historic, in fact, as I reflect back. I'm not sure that we've had both House and Senate transportation chairs together. I think that shows the unity and the focus of what you guys are doing to drive Georgia ahead, as Mr. Bowen talked about. So thank you for that. And we look forward to continuing to work with you. Obviously, Josh Waller's phone, I'll give it out in a minute. No, I'm just kidding. He's worried, but you both have that. And you just know that our district staffs are committed back locally to your districts, but all the way across the state. I think you both are familiar with your district engineers. We're certainly proud of both of those that you deal with regularly, but just know that same commitment exists across this entire state. And we look forward this afternoon to a joint Transportation House and Senate committee meeting. So Janine Miller and myself will be present for that. We look forward to seeing you then, and just look forward to working together. And thank you both for taking time to join today.
Thank y'all. Hope y'all have a great rest of your board meeting.
Thank you, Dylan and ladies.
Thank you again, and it's been a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Always remember, we're available.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
At this time, is any other board members have a question from the commissioner? I know that we kind of interrupted there a little bit. Okay, if not, then we will go to the legislative update. Mr. Josh Waller.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Commissioner, everyone in the audience. Thank you for the opportunity. It's a tough act to follow, having both of our chairs. And the phone number, by the way, is 867-5309, if anyone needs to get a hold of me. If anyone doesn't get that, just Google it and you'll figure out. So kicking off the legislative session, start off talking about the calendar. So as of right now, they have set through legislative day 25, which is going to be March the 1st. Today is legislative day 19. It's day 19 on the 18th, just a little fun there. We expect that crossover day is going to be that first week of March this year. Instead of it being day 28, it's actually going to be day 27. So likely we'll have one more legislative day that week and then crossover day, and then they'll probably resume that following week. You know, if you had to project at this point, they're probably looking at wrapping up. If at the moment there doesn't the sense that they might take a pause, that chance has dropped. So it's possible that they wind up with, you know, at either that last full week of March or that week of March, April hybrid. So give a few highlights on bills. We anticipate the housekeeping bill that the board endorsed to be introduced sometime this week or early next week on the House side. Representative Casey Carpenter will be the lead sponsor of that in coordination with Chairman Jaspers. We also, into what the chairman referenced about freight and logistics, there's a resolution on the Senate side, SR 102, that would stand up the Georgia Commission on E-commerce and Freight Infrastructure funding. And so it would be a follow-on to the last two study committees, as they expect that there'll be they really want to take a deep dive, as I understand it, to the impact of COVID and understanding how that's changed the dynamic of just e-commerce as well. Then we're also waiting on some other freight and logistics bills, as well as a study committee on airport infrastructure that's out there. There is a constitutional amendment that looked at expanding the ability for the state to issue bond debt for airports, but I think at this moment they're going to pause that effort and kind of focus on the study committee. In terms of legislation of concern and note, on both the House and Senate side, we've had bills increasing truck weights. Senate bill, or proposing to increase truck weights. Senate Bill 118 would authorize forestry products to be hauled instead of at 84,000 pounds, up to 100,000 pounds on 6 axles. In the House Bill 496 by James Burchett would permit it up to 95,000 pounds. So we're certainly, as a department, have always been very concerned about that. And when it comes up in a committee hearing, we will definitely register our concerns. Additionally, a bill that was introduced yesterday, House Bill 511, would want to bring to everyone's attention is a governor's bill dealing with fee dedication. If y'all will remember last year, the Georgia population ratified an amendment to the Constitution that allows for the dedication of fees. And within this fee bill, it's also a number of pre-existing fees, but within it, it takes the step to dedicate the alternative vehicle fuel fee, the heavy vehicle impact fee, hotel motel fee will be dedicated under this constitutional amendment to transportation in what will be called the Transportation Trust Fund. The commissioner is the trustee of that trust fund, and no more, it specifies that no more of that than 10% may be utilized for transit. So similar to the House Bill 105 legislation last year that said it's got to be for transportation, no more than 10% for transit. Additionally, we had last year the rideshare fee that was dedicated to transit. They dedicate that fee to what's called the Georgia Transit Trust Fund. Similarly speaking, it would be dedicating that fee revenue for transit projects. As we look at the legislative horizon, as the commissioner mentioned to the chairs today, there's a joint committee meeting dealing with the presentation of the 10-year plan, which was required under House Bill 170. The commissioner and the plan director will present. We'll after this meeting, we can send out the chart just showing the plan. Just as a reminder, what the plan is it's a table that summarizes all the STIP information, all the budget information, and lays it by 5 categories as specified under the law with percentage by fund source. So it's really dependent on all the other plan documents that we have to populate it. And then we expect next week to be a heavy committee week in terms of as they're getting close to that crossover week, a lot of action in the House and Senate Transportation Committees, and we'll keep you updated. With that concludes my report, and stand by for any questions.
Is there any questions from the board for Mr. Waller on the legislative updates? Thank you, Josh, for that report. At this time now, Ms. Whitworth will come up and we'll have a report on the budget update.
Morning, Chairman, distinguished members of the board. I'm here to present the amended FY21 and FY22 budget updates. I am pleased to say that the amended FY21 budget has been passed and was signed on Monday by the governor. I'll have a couple of, have a really big highlight, which is great news for the employees that I'll highlight here in a minute. In the FY21 amended budget, as you can see here, we brought in $159 million in excise, as well as in the non-excise, which consists of state general funds and fees, an additional almost $35 million to bring our total amended FY21 base to a little bit over $2 billion in total. On this next slide, as you can see from the depiction here on the graph chart, the bulk of 47%, almost 50% of our funding goes directly to the capital projects, which consist of capital construction, capital maintenance, and local roads admin. In general operations, you'll see, which consists of primarily 5 programs, which is construction admin, and that's really all those individuals who help get projects ready, such as design, right-of-way, environmental, those type offices. The administrative office, the administrative arm, which is legal, accounting, OSM, human resources, data collection, which they capture all of our road and traffic data, as well as collect and report on crash and accidents. And then finally, planning, which is the office up under Janine Miller, and then traffic management, which is our HEROES, ITS, TMC, and all the traffic signals. Also, you'll see LMIG, which we have 10% of excise going into that, which is $190 million. That's through formula distribution to the cities and the counties. In payments to CERTA, you'll see $98 million going into that program, as well as 1% going to intermodal, and then finally, roughly 5% going towards our GO bond debt. This chart here shows the budget programs where motor fuel funds are broken out and spent. The next chart I'll be showing you is where the state general funds and the fees are allocated to. In this first one, in the GO bond debt, you'll see a reduction of $40 million. What this is coupled with a almost $6 million reduction in debt service, as well as a fund source swap between fees and motor fuel. In capital construction, there's $144 million. The increase in capital construction comes primarily through just the normal increase due to projects, as well as you heard the commissioner talk about the COVID relief funds earlier, the roughly $277 million. What the department has done is we have transferred $92 million out of capital maintenance into capital construction to bring that program to almost $145 million increase. And we're planning on supplanting those $92 million in capital maintenance with those COVID relief funds that the commissioner talked about earlier. Also in capital maintenance, we had a redistribution of $18 million that helps between the $92 million transfer and the $18 million redistribution. That's where y'all show that effect of the $14 million reduction there. There was also, once the $92 million was transferred to capital construction, as I mentioned, and we also had $18 million that was redistributed amongst other programs, of which there's $5.5 million and $3.5 million went to construction admin and departmental admin to help with the recruitment and the retention of our employees, as well as in payments to CERTA. There was $9 million that was transferred there to help true up the Garvey bond debt service that was needed. Y'all recall where we sold in the month of December the remaining $600 million in Garvey bonds that we had due to us capitalizing on those favorable rates. That is us truing up the debt service component that was needed for that. Also in routine maintenance, you see $35 million in that category being added. That was an additional $5 million being added for striping. There's an additional $5 million being added for herbicide and litter pickup. And then finally, there's $25 million being added to do additional ITBs, which were previously had to be reduced from the district budget. This gives us the opportunity to add those funds back. In this next slide here, you'll see this makes up the non-excise, which is fees and state general funds. So you'll see in the GO bond debt column, the $34 million, that's where they're utilizing fees for the debt service. In intermodal, you'll see an increase in almost $597,000. This consists of a couple of different items. One is the $1,000 supplemental, one-time supplemental salary increase, which I will talk in more detail on the next slide. And then the remainder of that is the $577 million, which goes to airport aid, which impacts 6 airports. It impacts the Baxley Municipal Airport, which gives them additional funding to do hangar taxiways and concrete slabs for hangars. It impacts the Chris County Cordele Airport, which helps with obstruction removal and perimeter fence, and does design pavement, hangars, and taxi lanes. There is additional funding for the Griffin Spalding County airports to do land acquisition for phase 2. The Swinton Smithfield at Reedsville Municipal Airport, it helps with the design, their terminal building, and do site improvements. And then there is a Vidalia Regional. There was an increase there to rehabilitate runways and do phases 1 and 2. And then finally, in Barrow County, it helps assist with taxiway rehabilitation and extension. So those were added to the budget as well. And then finally, in payments to CERTA, there was no change there. On this next slide, this is where we would like to really, truly thank the legislature and the governor for their efforts for our employees. There was a one-time supplemental adjustment to employees who made under $80,000. They received a one-time $1,000 salary supplement. It impacts, as you can see here, 3,300 employees across our department. You had to be employed by February the 15th, be a full-time permanent employee, and all the 3,300 employees should receive this one-time supplement by the March 31st pay period. So we want to commend the legislature and the governor for this effort. This will go a definite long way for our employees during this time. That concludes my wrap-up of the FY21 budget. For the FY22, I'm just kind of going to highlight this. I brought it to you last month. There have been no changes since last month, but I just want to keep it so y'all can keep it fresh on your mind. The commissioner met with the House Appropriation Transportation Subcommittee last Monday, February the 9th, to go over this budget request. As you can see here, the governor's proposed a $216 million increase in excise, as well as an additional $32 million between state general fund and fees to bring the base budget a little bit over $2 billion. As you can see in the ATL, you see money coming and going out. I'll highlight that when I get to the fees and state general fund component in a little bit more detail. In this next slide here, what I'm basically going to do is show how those funds were distributed amongst the programs. You see a little increase in GO bond debt service and motor fuel of $15 million. In capital construction, you can see where there's an increase of $99 million to do additional delivery of projects. Also, I want to remind you that as the governor he had previously stated in Eggs and Issues, where we want to credit Janine Miller, who had come up with 2 initiatives within that capital construction program, one of which was to focus on freight operations. This initiative will assist with improving road and bridge facilities that are heavily traversed by trucks for small-scale investments that can address safety and enhance efficiency of freight movement throughout the state. This includes, but not limited to, investments to mitigate operational issues related to geometry or operation, security concerns, and supporting truck movement for Georgia's logistics-enabled industries. And then also the second initiative that Janine has proposed is a rural development initiative. This will be deployed to transportation improvements unique to rural Georgia, specifically targeting roadway, safety, broadband infrastructure for transportation-related telecommunications and innovation solutions. Each of these 2 initiatives represent a $10 million investment, of which $6 million is state funds and $4 million are made up of federal funds. In the next category is capital maintenance. You'll see an increase in $45 million there to do additional resurfacing projects. You'll see in construction, admin, you'll see those additions there. And like I said previously, as in the amended, this gives the ability for the department to do recruitment and retention of our employees. You'll see LMIG being made up of with an additional $21 million. This is 10% of the excise, which is distributed through formula distribution. And then in routine maintenance, you'll see that $35 million. I had previously talked about that as well in the amended, which does the additional striping, herbicide and litter pickup, and those additional ITBs that can be established in the base. And then finally, in payments to CERTA, you can see a reduction in the debt service that was reflected there. On this next slide, you'll see an increase in the fee component for GO bond debt service to $19 million. You see there's no change to payments to CERTA. You see here we have a new program, Payments to the ATL. It's a new program very similar to Payments to CERTA. They're both administratively attached to GDOT. So you can see through past legislation, payments to the ATL came to the department to be legislatively, and you can see the $12 million being established there and transferred into our budget. And then finally, in intermodal, there was no change there of the $21.9 million, which gives the department the ability to leverage close to almost $93 million in federal funds. Next slide here breaks out the general obligation bonds that the governor had recommended. He had recommended $100 million that would be split between bridge replacements and capital projects. Half of that money will go toward 12 bridge replacements, which are in 11 counties. Those 11 counties are Evans, Webster, Fayette, Sumter, Spalding, Madison, Macon, Chattooga, Elbert, Floyd, and Jefferson. There would also be 4 capital projects that are recommended that would be utilized for State Route 9 in Forsyth, State Route 20 in Henry County, State Route 24 at US 441 in Washington, and US 27 in Troop. We previously had to defer these projects due to lost revenue, but due to COVID, so now we have the ability to bond these. You also see here in the bond request, the short line railroad request of $10 million. This will be used for the Heart of Georgia Railroad and the Georgia Southwestern Railroads. The Heart of Georgia Railroad will have improvements a little bit over $7 million to provide upgrades to bridges and track between Preston and Vidalia. And then the Georgia Southwestern Railroad will receive almost $3 million in upgrades for bridges and tracks between Cuthbert and Lynn. Currently, we have 222 miles of GDOT-owned short-line railroad that meets the FRA Class 2 standards that they're referring here. We have 261 miles left to upgrade with 130 miles that we currently have under construction in order to do this. Chairman, that concludes my budget presentation.
Thank you for your report, Ms. Whitworth. Is there any questions for Mrs. Whitworth on the budget update? Thank you. Thank you.
Chairman.
At this time, I'll ask Andy Casey to come forward, our engineer on practical design at GDOT. He's going to come and give us a report. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioner, members of the board. I'm here today to give you a brief overview of GDOT's Practical Design Initiative and announce the release of our first Practical Design Guide, which will be formally released later this month. I'd like to start off by kind of giving a definition of from economy class, and really it's about diminishing returns, and kind of sets the tone of what we're trying to accomplish with practical design with GDOT. Any investment above the point of diminishing return is inefficient use of resources that would yield higher returns than invested elsewhere, if invested elsewhere. The core purpose behind practical design is to optimize the money we're spending, but it's not just about money. It's actually a concept to which we're optimizing our whole transportation system. So we asked the question, how can GDOT design and build more projects with available funds, resulting in a system-wide benefit to mobility, safety, freight connectivity, and economic development in our state? And one of the answers to that question, of many, is the use of practical design mindset and concepts. Practical design in its simplest form is the design of a project that satisfies the project's needs and meets the performance expectations by utilizing the most efficient and cost-effective solutions. So is practical design a new concept? The simple answer is no. GDOT's been doing this for years in different programs that I'll mention later in the presentation. Commissioner McMurray himself is a big proponent and advocate of this practical design approach, and we've been doing it a long time. This guide is an overview of some of those best practices that we have been accomplishing in the past
to help our less experienced engineers in the industry in applying the concept of practical design to meet project need and purpose and avoid over-designing of a project. This practical design initiative was spearheaded by Georgia Partnership for Transportation Quality, GPTQ, Practical Design Task Force. The task force was made up of design professionals from both GDOT and the consulting industry. The charge of the Practical Design Task Force, provided by GDOT leadership, were to research and develop best practices in order to deliver best value with maximum benefit to the transportation system, be creative and innovative to plant seeds of culture change within the industry, formulate a series of project delivery milestone checkpoints, or questions, if you will, that challenge the project scope related to the need and purpose of that project, and ultimately develop a practical design guide to be published and updated as needed. The task force performed literature research, reviewed other states' practical design policies and guides, conducted interviews with various offices throughout GDOT, and all in an effort to write and to publish the first practical design guide. So we may ask, why practical design? And really, it's all about maximizing, as I said before, the available funds while delivering transportation solutions. We all in this industry face a challenge of maintaining efficient and effective designs throughout the design process, and this could be processes or designs themselves. So instead of focusing on a single project, we want to focus on the statewide system as a whole, and really establish a culture of practical design that really addresses the single project performance objectives at the least cost available. So as I mentioned before, we've been doing this for years. We have different programs that use this practical design approach mindset. A few listed up here on the screen. I'll highlight a few of them. The Low Impact Bridge Program. This was developed to provide expedited project delivery for the least complicated type of bridges out there. It uses a scaled down plan set, creates efficiency from the beginning as one principles of the program. We have programmatic agreements in place, and also, as well as a practical design statement within that program charter. Another program within the department that uses this mindset is quick response. Those mechanisms are quickly identify and approve and construct small traffic operational projects where we don't need right-of-way, where we can go out and solicit bids from contractors through the district level. Another program is our 3R as well as our TIA. TIA is a stated benefit-based, cost-constrained design and budget program. So I'd like to highlight a couple of case studies here to kind of put in everybody's mindset of what we're talking about. So the first case study is the State Route 219. It's a bridge replacement. So the need and purpose of this project is to replace a deficient bridge structure. However, during the initial design, it included improvements outside of that basic need and improvement, need and purpose statement. It improved vertical curves and increased shoulder widths throughout the project limits, excuse me. So the practical design approach to this, instead of the overall project improvements stated previously, we use design variances based on past performance characteristics of the roadway. Therefore, we reduced the total project length by 800 feet, reduced total required right-of-way and permanent easement by 50 to 70% respectively, and reduced the overall construction cost to 20% by focusing mainly on replacing the deficient bridge structure. Our second case study I'd like to highlight is a quick response project that was completed by District 3, State Route 18 at State Route 41. And once again, quick response, they're focused on two really improvement areas. This one improves safety and reduced accidents. This particular intersection had a high number of accidents. It was low ADT. As you can tell on the screen, we had ample right-of-way. A T study was completed, and the recommendation was to install a roundabout. This is a rural setting where there's no curb and gutter, and the practical approach to this was a roundabout that was installed using a scaled-down plan set, We, as I mentioned before, used a negotiated bid strategy. We've solicited 3 contractors using the quick response guidelines, negotiated a scope up to $200,000, and after that, we used GDOT maintenance forces to complete the project. And construction cost was around $350,000. So the next steps in promoting a culture change in practical design, our goal, once again, is to have this guide be a first step to change that culture. This ties right in with GDOT's culture of innovation and collaboration, which allows everyone the freedom to innovate, and instead of using those cookie cutter designs that we see so often. Our goal is to also provide training opportunities to new engineers on various applications of practical design. We'll encourage our experienced engineers to share their experiences and knowledge and document it for our future design engineers. That knowledge transfer is important and one key aspect of a practical design approach. Our goal is to update this guide every few years and incorporate new ideas and new technology in our work as they present themselves. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you for the report. Is there any questions for Mr. Casey? Thank you again. Great report.
Thank you, sir.
At this time, we're going to have a tier update from Kenneth Franks. If you would please come forward. Okay, we're going to change that out. We're going to have Janine to come first then. Janine, welcome, and we thank you for coming and giving us a report on our statewide transportation plan. And so I'm going to turn it over to you now, and we'll look forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hopefully you can hear me okay, and hopefully
Sure.
the board can hear and see me okay. Good morning. Thank you for allotting some time for us today. I'm going to be as quick as I can. Hopefully this is not just the second presentation I've made to the board about the statewide strategic transportation plan and our federal statewide plan, but also hopefully there's been a good degree of ability to read through the document. I know I've heard from several board members, and I thank them for all of your time and expertise as we go through this. At the end of the presentation about the statewide transportation plan, I'll give a very brief update about the STIP and what's coming next on that. So as we know, the purpose of the STIP is to indicate both the board's and the governor's priorities for transportation investments and planning activities, and to be a communications document about all of the great work that's going on here at GDOT. And I have, since I've been here the past 7 months, I've had the great privilege to have even more appreciation and understanding of the amazing work the staff does. But I want to make sure you know that this document that is will be available on our website and is also available in paper format for the board members, is a true reflection of all of the amazing work that's been done at GDOT over the past decade to develop concepts into projects and develop projects into actual infrastructure. And thank you to Commissioner McMurray and all of the leadership here at GDOT for what is really, I think, an impressive product here in the strategic plan. We'll be projecting to invest $71 billion through 2050. That's our planning horizon year required by the federal government. But I want to make sure it's clear that these are the revenues and system demands that we can currently predict. We know that there will be growth, and we've built in some growth certainly to this. But as we were developing this plan over the past 2 years, there's been significant changes certainly in our economy and our state for many reasons, not the least of which is growth in population, freight. The Port of Savannah continues to grow, and we know that federal policy will likely be changing in the coming years. So we will keep an eye on that. But this is related to what we can project today. And want to make sure it's understood that this is related to policy and programs rather than project specifics. We will get to that in the STIP. Of course, we're aligning with the governor's strategic goals. In the last presentation I made, really punched through all of those activities that we're doing at GDOT that help carry out the Governor Kemp's goals for the state. I would also encourage you to take a look at the very last pages of the document. that provides a really good inventory of all the work that we're doing at GDOT, both investing and advancing our planning, and how it aligns with each of the governor's goals. Again, those are the last couple pages of the document. This is about performance and outcomes, catalyzing our economy and bringing innovation. A couple of new programs related to rural and freight using existing funds, advancing our planning process. And I do want to talk about the new inter-office working group that was put together for the sake of enhancing this plan, really advising and informing it so that it could be the most realistic and outcomes driven based on the practitioners and the experts here at GDOT. So we engaged with not just, of course, the planning office, but transportation data, safety operations, intermodal, communications, our performance-based management and research, bridge, financial management and maintenance. This was a whole of GDOT engagement here, and it became a key mechanism also to incorporate findings from other department plans. So I want to thank all of the staff at GDOT for all of the time and expertise they brought to this plan, and we'll continue that working group as we proceed. As I've mentioned, this is about what we're investing in, tangibly speaking, the actual infrastructure that we're maintaining, operating, and improving, expanding on with actual taxpayer funds. We're also including in this plan ways that we are advancing our transportation planning so that we can continuously improve the ways that we're looking at the technical analysis, as well as new tools that are available to us and new data and new partnerships that we want to explore that we haven't had the chance to. So that's what is captured in the advanced strategy. This framework is the same that I've shown you before, and there's a lot to it here. But it's important to know that this Invest in Advanced strategy has 3 different layers to it in terms of statewide freight and logistics, people mobility in Metro Atlanta, and people mobility in emerging metros and rural. And that investment strategy can be found on the executive summary, page 5. I'd encourage the board members, if you're able to take a look at, as we go through these next slides here, page executive summary 5 that shows a graphic that looks like this. It lays out, basically it's a plan on a page of the ways that we're investing here at GDOT and indicating to taxpayers and to Georgia citizens and businesses what great work is going on here. That will ultimately advise our other plans, our actual STIP project selection, our Statewide state freight and logistics action plan update, our 10-year plan, and other programs. So quickly, I'd like to go through each of these on the stack here. Statewide freight and logistics. More than half of all truck trips pass through rural areas. That's important to know. But overall, statewide, nearly 600 million tons valued at $875 billion into, out of, and within the state. That is why this is so important for us to continue to invest and continue to support our economy. Not just the 181,000 jobs and 15,000 Georgia businesses that are directly in freight and logistics, but all of the companies that over time and will continue, we hope, to invest their private dollars in Georgia with logistics-enabled facilities such as manufacturing, agriculture, food processing, distribution, and the like. 84%, in fact, of last year's private investment was in logistics-enabled companies here in Georgia. One exciting project that we know is underway now are the commercial vehicle lanes on I-75 South. Those we know are going to have incredible impact for the corridor between Macon and Atlanta. But some of the early statistics out are that we predict that there'll be a 9% increase in speed and reliability in that corridor, that heavily traversed both for people and freight. But we also will have a new freight lump sum, as Angela mentioned earlier, and thank you for running through what that program will be about. I have to really give thanks, though, for the new programs, the new freight and rural lump sums, to the district engineers for all the time I've spent with them in the past 7 months, but particularly Michael Presley, who has been an invaluable asset to the department over his decades here. But he's also been a wonderful partner to me in the work I've been doing in several years with the state. So those new lump sums, which will include a new freight lump sum, are a big thanks to the district engineers. I also want to make sure to mention that in the freight world, these logistics-enabled companies, we're aiming to attract those to our GRAD sites, which stands for Georgia Ready for Accelerated Development. Those are about 60 sites around the state we're taking a look to see where we can invest to improve the connectivity even beyond what they already have. Next, moving on to people mobility in Metro Atlanta. We have some data from a national source called INRIX indicating 82 hours of drive time and congestion in Georgia in 2019 at a cost more than $1,200 per driver each year. Really, though, we're attacking that, we hope, with the Major Mobility Investment Program, the MMIP, which is going to improve travel time savings by 15%, and we believe save $3 billion each year over once it's fully built out. But really important to not also include is that the travel time for transit vehicles is going to improve tremendously in those lanes. This MMIP is available on GDOT's website. I encourage all citizens and businesses to take a look at this. Really important, not just Metro Atlanta wide, but there's a couple other projects around the state that are going to yield benefits to the 6 million residents and more than half of Georgia population here. And we have, of course, major employers in the region, 30 Fortune 1000 companies that generate more than almost $350 billion in aggregate revenues each year. So those managed lanes are important, the multimodal connectivity, but as our build out of intelligent transportation system, high-tech infrastructure that will also prepare us for the future of connected autonomous vehicles. The MMIP also, the statewide strategic plan also focuses on emerging metros and rural Georgia. Now, although a fifth of Georgians live in rural areas, more than half of the state's total lane miles are in rural areas. That stewardship is on us at GDOT, and that is why rural is so important to us, but as well as the safety issues. Per 100,000 BMT, vehicle miles traveled, there are 56% greater likelihood of fatality in a traffic accident in rural areas versus metro. And that matters because nearly 1/4 of personal vehicle miles traveled on rural roadways, including urban residents traveling outside their home metro areas. So it's not just important for rural businesses and citizens, but also those of us who live in the cities. Speaking of cities, emerging metros are the 13 other MPOs or metropolitan planning organizations around the state. I want to just quickly read an excerpt from the Site Selection magazine earlier, actually last month's publication. This is the industry publication for those who are looking to locate companies around the country. It says that various data sets reveal that people are seeking alternatives to the major metros. And as people seek more affordability and less stress, and due to the pandemic, less density, mid-sized markets provide the alternative they are seeking. So this is a kind of a call to action to make sure we're taking a close look at the infrastructure that's needed in our other cities around Georgia. And in the rural space, of course, as Angela mentioned earlier, we're going to have a new rural program and which will also help to build out rural broadband for the future of our transportation infrastructure around the state. All in total, we get great results from the planning we were able to do over the long term, the prediction we can make in safety, bridge, pavement operations, and capacity, investing at these levels on an average annual basis of $2.3 billion each year. In actuality, this is a really impressive ability to do this here in Georgia. And I do want to focus, though, really on what those outcomes are, because we use the word investment here a lot for good reason, because we get impacts and benefits to our economy overall. 94,000 more jobs per year we can predict from this investment. On average, $8.4 billion more in personal income, and $11.1 billion additional gross state product each year. That is, as all this is built out, attributable to each of these three tracks of work. So with that, I would entertain any questions that you may have. If the board is able to approve today, we'll send it over to our federal partners to have that as our long-range plan of record with the federal government, and the work will this work will guide future decisions on multiple tracks of work. So, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Janine. At this time, is there any board members have any questions from Janine? If not, we'll entertain a motion for the approval of the state Statewide Transportation and Strategic Planning document. Can I have a motion? I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? There's no opposed approval. So the document is approved, and any other questions anyone may have at this time?
I would like to, if I might, just give tremendous thanks to the planning staff.
Great.
First of all, Matt Markham, who's our Deputy Director of Planning. Matt, I've been working with for several years and was part of the legislative effort back in 2009 to even bring forward the idea of a strategic outcomes-oriented plan. And he helped bring this forward in amazing ways. So thank you, Matt. I also want to thank Kathy Zahul, who's just been with us a month here at Planning, but is obviously a veteran here at GDOT. We're already seeing a huge benefits and wonderful inputs from Kathy Zahul. So thank you for being here with us, and she'll lead the next batch of work in the strategic planning that we'll continue to do. Also to be thanked is Radney Simpson, Tom McQueen, Andy Torrey, Trey Provo, and we all know, I think department-wide, the value of Kelly Gwynn. Were it not for Kelly, her tireless effort and her ability to take amazing notes and get stuff done, this would not be possible. So thank you to Kelly. All right, our first rollout really of the statewide plan is going to be the short-range investment program. We're going to go out for public comment on this starting next month. March 1st will be the public comment period for this $10.3 billion of proposed project selections. And thank you to all the board members who have spent time with us going over the activities in your districts and advising us on the best way to proceed. All of course, making sure we're following all federal and state laws and requirements and regulations. We have an incredible first investment from our SSTP here in these categories. This is reflective of federal funds only, but it is consistent strategically with the statewide strategic plan just approved. We will bring to the board a draft STIP at our next meeting, and we'll request board approval April 15th. I do want to tell you I'm pretty excited about what the public involvement will be, though, in March. For the very first time, we're going to have virtual public involvement, and we will be having an interactive map available for the public to see the projects that are going on in their area in visual format, not just a list of projects. So big thanks to Robbie Caudill for that, bringing that forward. He's been an amazing asset to the planning division. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is very impressive, and there's a lot of information in here that's available in the future of our state and transportation and the impact it will have on our economy and job development and lifestyle improvement. So thank you again, and thank you for your staff for the great job, because there's a lot of work here. Okay. At this time, I'll ask Kenneth to come up and give us an update on the Transportation Investment Act, TIA projects.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioner, all the board members attending virtually. I'm here to talk about the Transportation Act. I'm going to give an annual update on the three original regions, which are CSRA, Heart of Georgia, and River Valley. Previously came late last year and gave an annual update on Southern Georgia. We'll first touch on the collections. Collections to date through December of 2020. In CSRA, we've collected a little bit over $556 million to date. In River Valley, $384 million to date. And in Heart of Georgia, a little bit over $248 million to date. Now, to break that down into the 2020 numbers, we had 10.5% year-over-year growth in CSRA, 18.4% year-over-year growth in Heart of Georgia, and 14.2% year-over-year growth in River Valley. Quick reminder of the TIA timeline for the original 3 regions. Tax collections started in January of 2013. The timeline is broken up into 3 bands. We are currently in the second to last year of the last band. So we are just wrapped up our 8th year of the TIA program in the original 3 regions. So 80% of the way as far as our collections go. Still a little bit more as far as delivery goes, but we're proceeding on that timeline. So what have we accomplished in the first 8 years? In the first 8 years, we have delivered 820 projects to the construction phase. How do we stack up in Band 3? We have delivered 192 of the 306 Band 3 projects to construction so far. So we still got a little bit of work to do, but we're on pace in all 3 regions, and we have 114 projects that we still need to deliver to construction. So the next 2 years is still going to remain pretty busy as far as TIA is concerned. Some of the things that I would like to highlight as far as what we've accomplished this year, and big shout out to the TIA staff for making these numbers come true, especially during a pandemic year. We led 187 projects to construction this year. Just to go back to what that number was last year, that number was 95 last year. So a lot of production going on this year. We completed 116 projects this year. Last year, that number was 44. And we expended $134+ million this year. That number last year was $75 million. So we saw great production this year despite some of the issues that we had to deal with the global pandemic. So big shout out to the TIA staff. To drill down into a little bit of a region by region update, in CSRA, we had 84 projects total to deliver in the 10-year period. We currently have 18 projects in construction, 52 projects completed to date, and expenditures of over $254 million. We're currently at 83% of the projects advanced to construction on our 80% timeline, so we're ahead of schedule. Couple of projects to highlight. This project was completed this year. This is a State Route 17 widening project along a GRIP corridor. This was a blended project, but a great project, 2 to 4 lane widening. Big improvement for McDuffie County. Got a new interchange project going in Columbia County. This is along I-20 at State Route 47. We're doing a bridge replacement and intersection improvements at the ramp termini. There will be roundabouts on this one as well, so that'll be another interchange with roundabouts on both ends. This project is around 30 to 35% complete so far, and looking forward to it opening in July of 2022. Brief update on River Valley, 23 projects slated to be completed in the 10-year period. We currently have 8 projects in construction, 12 projects completed to date with expenditures of over $189 million. On our percentage-wise, we're 87% advanced to construction in River Valley, well ahead of our 80% time period. A couple projects to highlight. This project was completed this year. This is a bridge replacement on Whitewater Creek Bridge on State Route 187 in Macon County. And this is on US 27 in Harris County, a northbound passing lane. This is a big improvement to relieve congestion in this area. Heart of Georgia, our last region of the original 3. We originally had 764 projects in the 10-year period, 81 projects currently in construction, 582 projects complete to date with expenditures of over $132 million. We're at 87% advanced to construction in Heart of Georgia. Couple projects to highlight. This project is currently under construction in the city of Dublin. This Hillcrest Parkway widening. This is a major collector in the city of Dublin, and this project also highlights our participation with the locals, cities and counties delivering projects This project was delivered to construction by the city of Dublin. This project is currently around 40% complete, with a completion date expected in summer of 2022. The vast majority of the projects in Heart of Georgia look more like these two projects. This is Jim Ross Road in Dodge County and Roddy Highway, also in Dodge County. One is a asphalt resurfacing project, and the other is a double surface treatment project. Both of these projects were completed this year. And just as a reminder, the next 10 years for CSRA is already approved. 71% of the region voted yes. So that was a big thing for us this year, securing 10 more years in TIA. We're projected to generate $923 million in revenue over a 10-year period to support 162 projects in the CSRA region. Heart of Georgia has their list built for the next 10 years. It's expected to generate $392 million over the 10-year period and support 580 projects. That's looking like it's going to be on the ballot in spring of 2021, and we will keep the board updated on that as it progresses. River Valley is still in the process of building their 10-year plan for the upcoming 10 years. And with that, I will await any questions.
Is there any questions from any of our board members for Mr. Franks? Okay, Mr. Franks, thank you for your presentation. It's very impressive. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
At this time, is there any new business to come before this board? If not, I would like to thank everyone for tuning in today. I thought we had a great meeting otherwise, and pray and hope that everybody will be safe, and that we look forward to our March meeting. I don't know yet if it'll be virtual or not, but at this time, we will have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a motion to adjourn? Okay, great.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Goodbye.